delivery from from Egypt and the house of bondages, and or slaves or whatever, servants, the house of servants. And I started right into not making yourself a idol. You know, I started right into that, and then he realizes somewhere along the line, at what point, like it looks like he continued to write, not to take up, not to uphold. Et down here, that's missing. The aleph is gone. The ta is there. Et Shem, Yahweh, the name of the Lord. Don't take up the name of the Lord. Yeshua, for not. Or to nothing. Don't take it up to nothing. To vanity. To
there is linguistic evidence that ties Mesoamerica to the Near East as well. The Nine-Eights. Brian Stubbs, who is a Latter-day Saint and is an expert in the Utah Aztecan languages, has been comparing them not just with Hebrew, but with languages cognate to Hebrew, such as Arabic. And he has concluded that there are a lot of remnants of the Hebrew language that one can find in the Utah Azteco language.
As a linguist, I have found considerable evidence of Hebrew and Egyptian in at least one language family, Utah Aztecan. I have not yet published my findings for the linguistic community. The Utah Aztecan language family is a language, about 30 related languages that are descended from what linguists call Proto-Utah Aztecan. Their geographic location ranges from Idaho in the north to Mexico City in the south, basically. There are a few dialects in other places. About half of them are in the southwest United States. The other half are in Mexico. Actually, what I find in Utah Aztecan is two different dialects of Northwest Semitic and quite a bit of Egyptian that has the same sound correspondences as one of those dialects of Northwest Semitic. Northwest Semitic is the branch of Semitic that Hebrew comes out of, Hebrew and Phoenician and so forth. Now that's extremely interesting because that's exactly what the Nephite merger would be, is this merger of two different dialects of Northwest Semitic, one of them having a significant amount of Egyptian in them. And so it's extremely consistent, in fact, so consistent that the probability of that happening by chance would be very low. Another thing we need to keep in mind about the Mulekites is that we don't know how they got here, except that
this is 2 Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes. Who are the 10 tribes? You so-called Latinos and Native Americans, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osea the king, whom Salmanazar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. And what was that land? Assyria, where you so-called Latinos and Native Americans were in captivity in the land of Assyria. So while in Assyria, verse 41, but they took this counsel among themselves. So while being in Assyria, the natives, the Latinos, took a counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. And what is that country where mankind never dwelt? The new land, the new world, or what you know as North and South America. Verse 42, that they might there keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land. And this is the reason why you so-called Latinos and Native Americans went into captivity, because you wasn't keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Father. So the curse of not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Father is to go into captivity. Verse 42, that they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. Hence the reason why they went into captivity. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow place of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. and the same region is called Arsareth, or what you know as America, South and North America. This is where the so-called Native and Latinos came to, man, so that they could keep the customs of our forefathers, which we are who? Jacob, Israel.
Why do you wish to sail west?
To open a new route to Asia. Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold. At the moment, there are only two ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year. Or by land. But the Turks have closed this route to all Christians. There is a third way. By sailing west across the ocean sea.
The distance is unknown. It's said to be infinite.
Superstition. I believe the Indies are no more than 750 leagues west of the Canary Islands.
Can you be so certain?
The calculations of Toscanelli, Marin de Tir, Esdras.
Esdras is a Jew.
So what's worse?
2 minutes, and already you're a bad man.
For telling the truth?
Yes.
Is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet. 606. It's made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a skeleton of a man holding a little box that was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the 10 Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew, they said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismissed the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee. Since it came from Cherokee country, they didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history?